When I hurt you, I wasn't just breaking your heart. I was shattering the trust we built. And in doing so, I offended the very love that God bestowed upon us both, turning our connection into a painful reminder of my own weakness and failure. Betrayal is more than an act against the person. It's an affront to the higher power who gave us the ability to love and care for one another. In hurting you, I turned my back on the sacred trust God placed in my hands. In my betrayal, I didn't just wound your spirit, I wounded my own soul. I disrespected the divine order that taught me to cherish what was pure, and in the process, I insulted everything that is holy. The depth of my regret runs so deep that I now realize the pain I caused wasn't just physical or emotional, it was a spiritual scar, an offense against the sanctity of what love truly represents in the eyes of God. Every moment of betrayal I caused echoes in the chambers of my heart, reminding me that in hurting you, I tarnished a sacred bond, and in doing so, I insulted the very essence of love that is divinely given. It's a bitter truth, but when I betrayed your trust, I didn't just harm you, I defiled the sacredness of our connection. Every action against you was an action against what was meant to be pure, and that insult to God weighs on me heavily. To hurt you was to disregard the divinity within you, and in doing so, I insulted the most sacred part of our bond, the connection that God Himself placed between us to nurture and protect. The pain I caused you was far more than personal. It reached into the spiritual realm, where I dishonored the trust that was divinely given. In my actions, I failed to reflect the love that God intended for us. I betrayed you, and in doing so, I broke more than your heart. I broke the sacred trust bestowed upon me by God, and that thought haunts me, knowing I dishonored the very divine love that should have guided me. In every word of betrayal, I wounded not only you, but also my relationship with the divine. I failed to honor what was sacred between us, turning love into pain and turning my heart away from what God intended for me. When I hurt you, I crossed a line, not only with you, but with God. I ignored the sacred love that was meant to bind us, and in that ignorance, I committed a sin against both you and the very essence of love itself. The regret I carry isn't just for you, it's for what I did to the purity of love that God created. In every action of betrayal, I turned my back on something sacred, and the weight of that is unbearable. When I betrayed your trust, I didn't just hurt you. I severed the connection to something divine, something sacred. In doing so, I offended the very love that God has shown us, and that is a wound I can't easily heal. To betray you was to betray the trust that God placed between us. It wasn't just a betrayal of you, but of the love that was meant to be a reflection of divine grace and mercy. My actions in hurting you go beyond to the personal. They reflect a deep spiritual misunderstanding, an offense against the love that God has bestowed upon us both. And the consequences of that are felt not only in this life, but in my soul. Every time I think of how I hurt you, I am reminded that my actions were not just an insult to you, but to the very nature of divine love. I defiled something pure, and in doing so, I dishonored God's plan for us. I can't take back the pain I caused you, but I realize now that it wasn't just you I hurt. I insulted the trust and love that God built between us, and that offense cuts deeper than any wound I inflicted on you. In hurting you, I hurt myself. But more than that, I insulted the divine bond that was meant to unite us. I broke the trust God gave us, and that betrayal is a heavy burden I carry in my heart. To hurt you wasn't just an action against you. It was an act of disrespect against the divine love that God intended for us. And now I must face the consequences of that spiritual betrayal. Betrayal is not only a personal sin, it is a spiritual offense. In hurting you, I disrespected the sacred love that God designed for us, and that is a wound that cannot be easily healed. When I betrayed you, I desecrated the trust that was meant to be sacred. I insulted the divine gift of love, and that is the true source of the pain I now carry in my heart. Every act of betrayal was a slap in the face to the divine trust we were given. I insulted not only you, but the love that was meant to grow between us, a love that God intended to be pure and unbreakable. The guilt I feel isn't just for hurting you, it's for the spiritual wound I inflicted upon myself. I betrayed the divine love that was meant to guide us both, and in doing so, I insulted the sacred gift of love that God intended for us. I hurt you, and in doing so, I insulted the very essence of love, the divine energy that connects us. Every moment of betrayal turned my heart away from what God intended, and that is something I can never undo. When I betrayed you, I lost more than your trust. I lost connection to the divine purpose of love itself. And now I must bear the weight of that spiritual insult for as long as I live. Betrayal is not just a broken promise, it's a spiritual violation. By hurting you, I insulted the sacred bond that God Himself has woven between us, and I will live with that shame until I can find a way to make it right. I thought I could get away with my actions, but now I see the truth. I insulted God's divine plan for us. In betraying you, I disrupted something sacred and pure, and I will spend my life trying to find redemption. Every moment of betrayal I caused echoes through the spirit. I didn't just hurt you, I disrespected the sacred connection we were given by God. That realization brings a pain far deeper than I ever expected. The weight of my betrayal goes beyond my relationship with you. It touches the very core of divine love. And in that, I insulted the greater plan that God had set out for us. Betrayal is a wound not just to the heart, but to the soul. In hurting you, I failed to honor the love that God intended for us. And now I must deal with the consequences of that spiritual offense. I didn't just betray your trust, I betrayed the trust that was given to us by God, and that is something I can never erase. Every time I think of it, I feel the weight of that spiritual betrayal in my soul. To hurt you was to hurt myself, but more importantly, it was to disrespect the divine love that God entrusted to us. That betrayal is a stain on my soul, one I must carry with me forever. Every time I think of the pain I caused you, I'm reminded that my actions weren't just an insult to you, they were an offense to the very love God wants us to embody. And that realization is harder to bear than any physical pain. Betraying you wasn't just a personal failure, it was a spiritual offense. I insulted the divine trust and love that God intended for us to protect and cherish. And that is the true tragedy of my actions. When I hurt you, I insulted not just your heart, but the very love that God has shown us. I turned away from what was sacred, and the consequences of that spiritual offense are something I can never undo. Betrayal isn't just a personal sin, it's an affront to the divine love that connects us all. In hurting you, I insulted the trust and sacred bond that God had intended for us, and that will forever be my regret. The moment I betrayed you, I violated something sacred. I didn't just hurt you, I insulted the divine love that God had entrusted to us, and in doing so, I betrayed myself as well. When I hurt you, I didn't just hurt you physically or emotionally. I hurt our connection to the divine, the sacred bond that God intended to keep us strong. And for that, I will always feel the weight of my betrayal. Betrayal runs deeper than broken promises. It's an attack on the sacred love that God placed between us. By hurting you, I insulted the divinity of that bond, and the pain of that realization will stay with me forever. In betraying your trust, I lost something far greater than love. I lost connection to the divine will that had brought us together, and for that, I carry the weight of regret and spiritual shame. To betray you wasn't just a sin against you, it was a sin against love itself. In turning my back on you, I turned my back on the love that God created, and that is a sin I can never fully atone for. I thought my actions were small, but now I realize the magnitude of the spiritual damage I caused. In betraying your trust, I insulted God's plan for us, and that is something I will always regret. Every betrayal I caused was an insult not only to you, but to the very foundation of divine love. I violated something pure, and in doing so, I insulted God's vision for our connection. When I hurt you, I wasn't just causing pain, I was insulting the very nature of love, the divine connection we are meant to have. And that spiritual insult is something I will carry with me always. To betray you wasn't just to break your heart, it was to break my bond with the divine. I insulted the sacred love God gave us, and that is a burden I will bear for the rest of my life. Every time I think of the harm I caused you, I remember that I didn't just betray you. I betrayed the sacred love that God placed between us. And that betrayal will echo through my life forever. In betraying your trust, I insulted something far greater than our relationship. I insulted the very love that God created between us, and that is a spiritual wound I can never heal.